It is now.
Sorry. Oh,
Very
thank
good.
you, sir.
So if everybody agrees with the minutes, if we could get a motion, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from last meeting.
That's second.
Madam Clerk, can you take the vote, please?
Yes, sir. Ms. Hutto? Yes. Mr. Stryker?
Yes.
Chairman Rinka?
Yes, and thank you again. These are, even though there's 3 pages here, I really do like the new format. It really is direct and to the point. Thanks again. It looks excellent. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to read a statement here, and then we're not going to forget about the part where everybody gets to come up and provide us with items from the audience. So welcome to this April 9th Planning Commission meeting, and thank you for your continued interest in the operations of our city. In today's meeting, we're going to be holding a public hearing on a requested district change. A parcel owner has a request to change a property from MU2 to commercial. We wish to hear from everybody wanting to provide their input, with particular emphasis from those citizens directly impacted by this development. Being a public hearing, anyone can offer their thoughts at this meeting, and please note the entire meeting will be recorded. During the meeting, we'll start with the parcel owner and give them an opportunity to outline the reasons for this potential change. When anyone comes to the podium, when you're discussing this development, the clerk will not swear you in because this is just a public hearing, but please provide your name and address for the record. You'll be provided 3 minutes to convey your thoughts and ideas. This commission is interested in all new and relevant information related to this development and asks that you keep your communication related to this specific topic. All right. At this time, I'm going to ask anybody if you'd like to come to the podium and provide any thoughts that are not related to the one item that we have on the agenda. Nobody has anything? We'll go ahead and we'll get right to the item agenda. All right. This is a public hearing, so Mr. Bostwick, if you'd like to come to the podium, please. There may be some new people in the room that may want to hear about what your development is, and then we will give people in the audience the opportunity to provide their input as well.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. What I was trying to do, I guess we all know, is change from mixed use to general commercial to allow me to do car rentals.
Yes, sir.
I know Parker has changed LDR to allow boat rentals where none were previously allowed before. We've also, planning and zoning has agreed to let Mr. Santor develop a manufacturing facility in our city, which didn't even allow that category. It seems to be, to me, there's an inconsistency with the planning and zoning here. They pick and choose who they would allow, what they want, and that's bringing up, I believe that gives me a legal standing for future lawsuits against the city. The change from general commercial to MU2 was basically an artifact of Brenda Hendricks' term as the mayor, when the property was owned by Mr. Forehand, was also a city councilman. They were depending on the property beside me to be a huge development. They were wanting to change it from general commercial to mixed use 2 so that they could develop more units. I came here in November. I filled out a application. I was told by Ms. Riga not to pay my $1,100, to just come to the meeting, see what you thought about it. Having done this before, I sort of knew, thinking it was a different planning board, that they might be wanting more development in Parker, but she told me to just see what the board thought about it, and we know how that went over. You can watch the YouTube video. Mr. Haney made a fool out of himself.
You can keep my name out your fucking mouth.
Whoa. Oh, hello, boys.
There he is again. came to that meeting. Mr. Sloan advised the planning commission the correct way to do the process. He said I needed to pay the $1,100, let it go to engineer. I paid the $1,100, it went to the engineer, and they said, well, he's commercial, the building's been there since 1960, and he's selling portable buildings and go-karts and lawnmowers and anything else he sells but a car. So they recommended that they thought we should approve it and maybe get Parker moving in the right direction. And then the next meeting I came to, after I did everything, the legal process, the way to do it, I have to drive 8 hours just to come over here to this meeting, so it's costing me time and money just to come over here. And then basically it wasn't a quasi-judicial meeting like it should have been. It was just another meeting, I guess. But now I'm here for the third time. I sit on 0.42 acres, and it makes no sense for 0.42 acres to be zoned mixed use too. I mean, there's not much you can do on 0.42 acres. So that's, I've paid my $1,100. The engineering company charged Mr. Sloan had to get his fee to read it, I guess, for $120, and then they charged me another $400 something. So I've spent $1,560. And like I said, the engineering company thought it would be a good idea. And that's about the gist of it.
Mr. Bostwick, did you pay the difference? I don't recall. I know I sent you an invoice for $520. Did you pay that difference?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. I didn't.
I
So
just
currently
got
you've
here
just spent
today.
the $1,100.
Right.
Okay.
You emailed me the invoice
I did.
like Friday. I had no idea about that. It's not a money thing.
And
It's
you
just-
and you did see where I highlighted where it stipulates that you must pay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Like I said,
I just wanted to make
everything's
sure.
fine with that. I just don't understand why y'all use an engineering company that makes a living doing that, and then we have two planning commissioners that are gonna decide the fate of what I can do on the property that I own and pay taxes on.
Mr. Bostwick, believe it or not, these people here are bound by the state in order to make their determinations based on a very narrow margin of what is out there. For example, this is directly from Ashley Moody's office, and they're reminded of these things all the time. Whenever you've got a planning council or a planning commission, what our job is to do is to look at the land development regulations, look at the comprehensive plan, and if you've got something in opposition of that, they have to follow those rules. I know you'd mentioned, the light industrial thing and being in opposition, but in fact, there was a change to the LDRs that came about that allowed for that development to take place. So these people, and I'll read it directly to you if you're interested, their only job is to look at the facilities identified in the strategic regional planning policy, any impacts that it may have that would be inconsistent with the comprehensive plan, and determine if any local governments within the region would have an opposition to it. That's what they do. I feel your pain, but at the end of the day, I think I've told you in the past that we've got two barriers that exist out there. Number one, it's MU2, which specifically prohibits auto sales or auto rentals. It's about beautifying the city. We've talked about that a couple of times, and it's also in sub-area 2 of a CRA. And both of the languages in both of that context prevents these people from voting in that direction. Now, here's the only good news for you in relationship to that. We are an advisory council, as we've identified and you've identified to us. You know the rules. You've identified, that you know the rules. If there are extenuating circumstances, then we can look at those things and make a recommendation one way or another. But in this case, if I just purely read the comprehensive plan, let me just read you a couple of passages from it. It's a policy 1.2.3. These people that are here, they have to provide the highest standard of compatibility that will be applied to non-residential uses whenever it's going to be when we're looking at something like a plan change from an MU1 or a district change from an MU1 to an MU2. They also are bound to look at policy 1.6.1. The city will maintain land use districts and densities as appropriate for promoting redevelopment. So the city will maintain land use districts. That is their goal. This comprehensive plan was also rewritten recently, but this is not an emotional thing. This is really just purely these folks reading what the rules are. There's one last one. It's policy 3.1.4. And again, I know you know this, so I'll just read it to you though. But the city will include standards to protect and stabilize established residential neighborhoods. Such measures and standards shall address mitigation and impacts from adjacent land uses, limitation of allowable uses in neighborhoods, eliminating non-conforming land uses. It also, goes on, but this is in no relation to you, that says their job is to be considered about any land use change requirements which may result in eyesores or junk control. I mean, that's language in here. None of them created it, but it's what they have to bind themselves to when they make these decisions. So again, the good news for you is that we are an advisory committee. So whichever way we vote, the council is going to take into consideration what it is that you are requesting and see if there are any stipulations, any differences which alter your unique situation to anybody else that may be out there, and see if they could either grant it or deny it. But it's not about two commissioners. It is really about them looking at the rules, understanding the LDRs, understanding the comprehensive plan, and applying it directly to the request before us. It's really that simple.
Okay, but I'm already doing everything that you just said.
Well, you're really not, because
I'm not. I have a license.
because these people here have to look at the LDRs, have to look at the comprehensive plan, and if they're in opposition to that, then they have to vote
But I'm doing
in
that,
that direction.
like the engineer said. I'm already commercial. I'm already selling boats,
spoke-
RVs.
I
I could sell wagons, golf carts, sheds. I don't know of anything I can't sell but a
Well,
car.
there's a whole list of things you
There's-
cannot sell
Yeah, there-
in mixed use 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Well, I'm two, so I don't care about one. All I can say is this is something that Tyndall would support. Having a car rental place that close to them, they would be in support with it. I know y'all working.
And I think that's a valid point to bring before the council members, that it might, be beneficial to the military base, because we do, in fact, wish to support them on a regular basis.
I'm not doing a new development.
these
This has
guys
been there
are-
for 60 years.
But it's a use change. You're requesting a district change, which would ultimately change the use of that area.
I'm selling retail sales now, so it's not changing any
So
use.
the term retail is an arbitrary term just designed to determine the difference between wholesale and retail. Anything's retail that an end user goes to. So retail, it says retail sales, but that is specifically, but then it goes into the section that identifies that what sales are prohibited. And
Right,
unfortunately,
allowable uses.
right now in the MU1 and the MU2 areas, the items that are specifically prohibited in MU1 and MU2 are any auto-related industries like
Right.
that. Auto sales, auto rentals.
Okay, but not motorcycles or lawnmowers.
I don't think they specifically don't
It
So
says
there's no-
call
motor
those
motor
things out.
vehicles.
Motor
So any
vehicles.
motor vehicle.
So almost
Under
anything
chapter
known to
316.
man, helicopters, airplane, anything but a automobile can't be rented.
No,
So really,
motor vehicle,
It's
not
amazing.
automobile.
Yeah, well, y'all changed it because it was automobile
Well,
related services.
It's, quite
it's-
frankly, we rewrote the land development rules. The
Just for
council
me.
members, no,
I
sir.
just don't understand.
The
how
council members, see a
It's
few of them here in the meeting today,
Yep.
approved those rules and
Yeah.
ultimately thought that it was to better the city. Like I say, you got two issues going on there.
Well, maybe I'll
CRA,
start
which is
selling-
really designed,
Nice boats out there. I'll put some nice boats.
actually, if it's allowed, sir, I'd be,
It
if
is
it's allowed, then
It
quite
is.
frankly, we'd support you
And
100%.
maybe they'll be
What were the
derelict
threats?
We'd
So
support you
your city will
100%.
look great.
Yeah. Well, not,
Yeah, it
well,
looked real
right.
good.
It's looking better now,
Well,
Mr.
it won't
Boswell.
when they come over the bridge and see derelict boats.
Well, see, but that's the kind of thing
Well,
that makes it hard
I
to
know.
try and continue to want
I know.
or wish
Y'all
to
got a
support
tough
you.
job.
We all do,
Thank
that's
you
right.
for your input.
Anything
Thank you.
else?
Paul, would you like to come up?
Sure.
Yes, sir,
Paul
please.
Palmer, 1135 West Street,
Hey,
Parker.
Paul.
So I'm a little bit confused in that I was under the understanding, and maybe I'm incorrect here, but this was what he has applied for was an LU change to general commercial.
Right,
So if and that is something that the planning commission does make a recommendation on.
that's right.
All right. So in this particular case, if we look at case history of what Florida has done on LU changes, we have a very unique situation here. In that prior to when Mr. Fordham bought the property, it was general commercial, as was that whole strip along Tyndall Parkway. Then when Brenda made the changes, okay, when Brenda made the changes and added MU2, there's a lot of reasons why she did that, but part of it was, I believe, because she owned a lot of property that she wanted to make more money off of in West Bay. But when that was done, they had some prior stuff to deal with. They had the trailer park to the west, and that was that had to be accounted for, and that got accounted for with an MU2 reeling. Then they had the property which was the single family, no change there. And it was really Mr. Fordham that basically got involved and said, oh, I'll make more money and I'll go with an MU2. But it wasn't really logical. And when you look at historical changes in LUs, we have an island of MU2 surrounded on the left by an MU1, surrounded on the south, I guess it is, and then to the west by single family, and on the right across the road we've got, I believe it's a donut shop. So it is appropriate for the planning commission to look at it from that standpoint too. Secondly, obviously, if he came before you not asking for an LU change, but asking for a usage change to be able to allow the car rental place, then that would be a different hearing. But he actually asked for a change in LU use to accommodate that.
That's right.
Let's
Well,
see.
Mr. Chair, I would like to point out to Mr. Palmer that the applicant has requested a variance previously to that provision in the land development regulations, and it was turned down. So,
When was that turned down? Was that in 2016?
it was a few years ago, yes, sir.
Yeah, it was 2016. So
And
this
then
is
he came back again last year, I believe, is when he came back.
in November.
And submitted a request to have a change in the land use.
Correct.
So he did that, he requested the variance after he had already come before the city back probably in at least 10 years ago, if not longer.
16.
It was 6.
2016.
I didn't even own it 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, I have records from back in 2011 when you were requesting things, so
I didn't buy it till 2016.
anyhow.
You can't have records on me.
The point of the story, Mr. Palmer, is simply that he requested that variance. He did go through that process that you just indicated that he's not here on tonight, but he did go through that process, and he was turned down for a variance. He's also been here before requesting a land use change, and he was turned down for that. So he's back again for the land use change, and My question to the applicant last meeting was, what has changed from the last application that was turned down to this application? What has changed?
So, so you had applied for a land use change prior?
Yes.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that. Okay.
What's changed is about, well, one councilman died, one of them's no longer the mayor, and I thought we had some reasonable people that sit on the board.
So it's a
here.
personnel change
Yeah.
and not a physical change to anything else.
When you say, like, the last meeting, it was 2-2, so the mayor decided my fate in conjunction with Mr. Haney, who I'd already talked to, and he said he would approve it.
Mr. Haney.
So-
Well, there's also been since then, just, again, I'm not a lawyer, I was asked to get involved and to review things because I didn't understand some things, so that is why I am present here. But since then, we did change the LDR, and in that particular case, we no longer had allowed rental of boats in Parker. Now we allow boat rentals in Parker. So there have been some changes. We have had a slate of LU changes that have recently been approved. So there has been, possibly some consideration that there has been a change in the environment on how we make decisions. But I'd also like to point out that regardless, there have been some inconsistencies in following the procedures. And that, again, that's been sort of a recurring theme with me and some of the other people that I work with. So I'm just going to, if you don't mind, I'm going to, when I was collecting the
it's 3
information
minutes.
from you, the
Yeah.
history, I'm just going to,
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay.
We were trying to limit people to 3 minutes, Paul, but go ahead.
do you want to hear this, what I say?
Yeah.
Okay,
What do you
all
have
right.
to say?
So, he did first fill out an application for LU change. And then this goes along with something that I have recommended from a long time. Dr. Sloan, you may recall that I said that when we bring on new people on board, it would be good if you would take the time to educate people about the processes and procedures, what they can and can't do. And also, it would be really great because we're dealing with complexity. We're dealing with steps that must be taken along each of these complex things, particularly when it's things like an LU change or an LDR change, because there are legal rules that apply. So, and some of the grief that this person has experienced has been because of a lack of a checklist, if you will, and a lack of education. So I'm just going to read what I had put down here. Non-compliance with the LDR and comp plan procedures have cost Mr. Boswick time and money and jeopardized his right for fair and impartial hearing. He first filled out an application for LU change in November. Now I wasn't aware of the other ones, and was instructed by Kim to not pay the $1,100 because you don't know if you're going to get approved or not. Well, they had a discussion at the November meeting, and during the meeting, Mr. Sloan stated that this meeting should not even be occurring, as Mr. Boswick has not completed the legal process and should have paid the $1,100 filing fee, so Anchor could have done their work, and then went on to say that, remember, the Planning Commission is not really an advisory committee as far as advising, is this good or not? I mean, is this, prior to having a hearing, is this acceptable or not? Am I phrasing it right, Dr.
No, I
Sloan?
wouldn't
No,
phrase it
I don't
like-
think
like
so.
that.
How would you phrase what I just said?
I'm not sure that I said anything close to what
It's
you said.
recorded, so we can read.
Yeah, I was trying to get it off the recording, but it was pressed for time. So it was just something to the effect
The,
that
the,
we're
the
not supposed
planning
to.
commission's
part of the
job,
process.
as you heard the chair say, and he read a part of what the planning commission is supposed to do. There's also a section in the land development regulations about what the planning commission is supposed to do, and they're supposed to consider all of the aspects that the chair indicated, plus what's in the LDR as far as their duties. So they have an obligation to look at the comp plan, look at the land development regulations, look at the CRAs, and make recommendations to the city council relative to their position on those. And that's what I think they are here tonight to do.
Oh yeah, this is all exactly what's supposed to be going on.
Okay.
But there at that other again in the November meeting, from what again just a cursory replay of the video, there was a conversation about whether this meeting should even take place because he hasn't placed his application, he hasn't filed his application fee, his engineering fee, etc. Do you recall any of that?
Well, yes, the city's position historically has been that the city planning commission and the city council should not consider an application of any kind
Until it's been
unless
formally-
all fees are paid.
Right, okay.
And so that has been the norm for as long as they've set out the required fees.
So the only thing there is really, I think there's a procedural issue when he asked you to pay the fee, he was told, no, you don't need to. And so I'd like you to look into correcting it.
I think the clerk was trying to save the gentleman some money in recommending that he come and talk to the planning commission before, because it's a large amount of money.
Sure.
And get sort of a feel for, which direction this thing may go. And then at some point, he chose to go ahead and follow through with the process.
I don't believe that that Kim's position was at all nefarious. That's not the point. But again, it's kind of a catch-22. You can't come before and say, gee, I'd like to do this, because even when I sat on the planning commission, you've said, until we have an application, we really can't tell you you can do this or not do this.
That's not right. There's actually an opportunity for any applicant to come and have a pre-meeting and ultimately discuss their proposals with planning, with a planning commissioner, as long as there's not more than one in the room, a council member, as long as there's not more, or the mayor, or anybody else. That's directly in the LDRs. They have
That's
a
before any
pre-application.
application is submitted. Now,
Yeah.
but the only way that the planning commission should be functioning is once the application is submitted, then it starts the process.
Right,
And
okay,
if
so that clarifies what I was saying. So you could have actually gone to individuals and gotten their opinion, et cetera, but that meeting was not the proper place for that. Okay, so then we had the March meeting.
If I may,
Yeah,
Mr. Bostwick came and spoke during the items not on the agenda. It is my understanding that anyone can approach that podium at that time and speak about anything that they wish to.
Absolutely
that's
can.
actually perfect. So again, I wasn't aware of that.
So
Again,
he had been turned down.
I didn't come to speak.
Well, this is not
He
an
had,
argument.
if I may,
Yeah,
Mr.
that's-
Bostwick, if I may, because you're suggesting I don't understand procedure. So I'm going to let you know, he had been turned down twice. I thought it might be better if he came and spoke during items not on the agenda, just to get some understanding, because I didn't think he should have to spend another $1,100.
And I totally got that, Kim. I
Okay.
was
All right.
not trying to, I didn't think you did anything nefariously, but it did because of his distances coming back and forth. I think he thought that was supposed to be a hearing. Now then we had the March meeting. Wasn't that supposed to be a hearing?
Paul,
Because
could
now
you
he's
kind of
had-
cut to the chase, though? Is it
Yeah,
that
I've
you
been
feel like
screwing
there's
around on this deal.
some inconsistencies here? Is that what the key points here
The
are?
point I'm trying to make is
I mean, because
that
you actually were on the planning commission in a very important role you played a very important role for many years. You helped craft these land development rules.
Absolutely, and the comp plan.
You helped craft these current comp plans. Your signature's all over these, and you did good work. And we went and we took this information to our council members, and they reviewed them extensively. If you remember, there were probably 15 meetings, 3-4 hours each meeting. We poured through this data, and they thought that this was right for the city. So if your goal here today is to tell us that there's some inconsistencies, there might be. We're human. Sometimes we make mistakes. But you know what? We continue to grow, we continue to educate ourselves, and we continue to get to a point where we believe it's right. And that's where we're at. That's our position today. The good news for Mr. Bostwick is that we're an advisory committee. We are following the rules. Each one of these people pour over this information for hours. There's no nefarious beliefs here. There's no prior desire to harm this man or help this man. In fact, we have to remain impartial the entire time. So with that said, and with your signature all over this and all over this, it seems like you're arguing against what you helped create.
I'm
And you
not.
did good work, Paul. But right now, I don't know where you're going with this
Well, let me
thing,
finish
other
and
than
you'll
to
know.
say that maybe you feel like we're somehow being improper with this gentleman. That's not the case. Our job is clinical. It's to understand what the rules are, to apply them, and then pass it along to council. That's it.
This argument that I'm making right now is the March meeting should have been his hearing. Okay, the guy travels 9 hours to come and go. He was expecting a hearing, he had paid his money, he had followed all the rules.
I get that, and I apologize for that, Mr. Boswick. I did not know what your circumstances were. Please, sir, this is your meeting.
Okay, well, why would you have someone pay an engineer 15 or Mr. Sloan $120 to read over a little paper and charge someone that kind of money why do you use an engineering firm when you're not even gonna take their advice?
Well, the engineering firm has unique qualifications, as you
Sure
know.
do. A lot more than y'all got.
Well, see, sir, but why do you want to make those statements like
Because
that?
it's true.
Well,
They're
okay,
PhDs.
but there's
I
a
don't know
lot
what
of things
y'all are.
true that we
You're just
that
little
we
citizens
we remain
in
a
that
civilized
part of
world and
their
we don't
There's
say.
a PhD right here,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
Well, I don't care.
So at the end,
Just local people,
at the end of
do
the
what you
day,
wanna do.
Well, again, I'm
we're just sort of these guys are here's the rub. The rub is if they vote against the rules, then somebody's going to say you voted against the rules. If you vote for the rules, somebody else is going to be unhappy. Paul, it's a no-win. You knew that.
You can't
This is
even
kind
get
of a
people to
thankless
sit on the
job.
board. You can't even get planning commission.
Thank you, Mr. Boswick.
This town is a shithole and.
Now, stop it,
Whoa, whoa,
come
whoa.
on.
I mean,
This
Ride
is-
around and look
Point
at
of
it.
order.
No,
Ride
no.
around, ride around and look at
Stop,
it.
okay?
Yeah.
You've had enough.
So let me just finish my last point. This is just about procedural issues.
You're gonna let
So,
him cuss, but you're not gonna let me talk.
I talked with him already.
Okay.
Paul, thank you. Appreciate your time. Anybody else?
thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, I've got to ask our commissioners what your thoughts are, guys. Terry, okay if I start with you?
Yeah, LDR, CRA, say no. And I'm not gonna be part of recommending a land use change in the CRA.
I understand. Bev?
I second Terry.
Okay. Can I get a motion, please?
I would make a motion that we forward to the city council that they reject the land use change
Very good.
on the basis of the CRA and LDR.
Can I get a second, please?
Second.
Madam Clerk, can we get a vote, please?
Ms. Hutto? Yes. Mr. Stryker?
Yes.
Chairman Riga?
Yes. Thank you. Everybody, I'm going to close this meeting down. Thank you. Have a nice day.
It doesn't do any good to get upset.
No.
It doesn't do any good to come in here and try and bully everybody like a giant son. Just saying.
Yep.
Are our microphones off?
You know.